Hello, hello. Welcome to the room. I love that three of us have a virtual background and three of us are in their own space. I love it. I love it. I love it. You can be anywhere in the world when you're on Zoom. You can just change everything in the background where whatever seems fit for you. I love it. I love it.
Blake, is that a virtual background?
Yeah, it is.
Oh my gosh. I was just thinking, wow, where does he live? That looks so nice.
No, it's a virtual. It's a virtual.
Oh, I have to figure that out.
Yeah. I did a little diving to find this one. Everybody's asking, like, man, where are you at? Like, are you working downtown right now?
Yeah, it looks awesome.
I love it. All right. Well, it's 11:51, and we definitely want to stick to time because I believe that we're going to end a little early today, so you can give back some of your time. For those that do not know me, let me introduce myself to you all. I am Brittany Stevens, and I serve as the strategy manager for Collegiate Directions. It is a fairly new position. It was implemented on my arrival in August 2019, and I absolutely love this place. I will be helping to facilitate this conversation today with our esteemed presenter, Mr. Blake Nathan, and as also with my co-pilot, I would say my shared office space person, but we have not been in the same space for a while, but she's definitely one of my favorite people in the entire world, Miss Lauren Legal. She's your wellness counselor. She does it. She gets it done. She is absolutely amazing. She even counsels me. I mean, and I'm a lot to deal with. So I am appreciative of you guys joining this session today. And we are going to, I believe that we're going to have an amazing time. So they gave me an agenda, and Isabel knows me well that I can go on a tangent. So I do stick to the rules. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off Mr. Nathan's bio for you all. So you can get to know who he is, okay?
Well,
So
Brittany,
Mr.
do you want to do my bio? Because I have it in my PowerPoint.
You have it in your PowerPoint? Well,
Yeah.
if you have it in your PowerPoint, I'm just going to let you just have at it. You know, you can, if you're ready to take the floor.
Hey, I'm ready. If you want to pass the mic, I'm ready to rock and roll.
Well, the mic has been passed. I'm going to mute myself now.
I know how people are sometimes when you read a bio. So I was like, I probably gonna hit some high level points, and it's on the screen too, and some text. So let's get it cracking. So let me do a full screen for this. Play from the start. I'm gonna see if I can still see you guys' faces. I can. Perfect. All right. So as Brittany said, I'm Blake Nathan. I am the CEO and founder of the Educate Me Foundation. Right now, I'm assuming you guys are in the success at your first internship or job. Today, I'm going to talk about my personal story, my first internship, which led to my first job opportunity, and talk about some things that I currently do with Educate Me. So as Brittany was about to read, I kind of stole the show a little bit. I already had it kind of pre-populated for her. So I'm Blake Nathan again. I'm an East Atlanta native, so I grew up on the far east side of Atlanta, Georgia. Went to Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee, where I majored in Aeronautical and Industrial Technology with a concentration in Aviation Flight. Basically, I wanted to become a commercial jet pilot. I thought I was going to be flying for like Delta, American, JetBlue, flying across the world as a captain of a major airline. That quickly turned my junior year in college when I started working for a youth outreach program called the Martha O'Brien Center. So I worked with 6th and 7th grade kiddos. And that was my introduction to education. So I worked in the Martha O'Brien Center. I also worked in an early learning center, changing diapers and burping babies in the daycare. And that was me seeing how young infants and how the brain development, learning fine motor skills, sensory skills, the whole 9 yards. And so I went back to my advisor on the college of campus at TSU, and I told him that I wanted to change my major to education. She said if I do that, I'll be there for another 2 years. So I ended up continuing to finish my degree in aeronautics. I'm not licensed to fly, so the only thing I really have to do right now if I ever want to become a pilot is just take my flight hours. But I have all the documentation. I passed my flight test, the actual credential to like be a CEO or executive for airlines. And so we have like aviation management and we have commercial flight. So I have my management degree certificate as well. So I ended up stumbling across a program called the Woodrow Wilson National Teaching Fellowship. They actually just changed their name this summer because of Woodrow Wilson. I think they call it now offered me the Civic Learning Fellowship. And during that time, I taught 7th and 8th grade technology education courses in the middle school. During that time, I was the only Black male teacher in my school building for the first 2 years of my teaching career. And that was where the birth of Educate Me was started. And so seeing the lack of diversity in my school building, knowing that it wasn't my norm from growing up on the far east side of Atlanta in an all-Black neighborhood, going to an all-Black school, then going to HBCU in Nashville, Tennessee, I knew that there were opportunities that people of color would assume positions in the school industry. And so for me was, how can I make sure there's other Black and brown girls and boys to have an opportunity to see an individual in the classroom that looks like them? And that's really where Educate Me tries to do. We want to recruit and retain more educators of color by diversifying the national teaching population. And I'm gonna share some more stuff about my bio here in a second, but that's basically me in a nutshell. And kind of one of the quotes I live by: we are here to answer the call because there's a cry for help in education, and students are saying, educate me. So when we talk about the word educate me, we believe it's a cry for help. And it's a sense of urgency right now to ensure that our students of color are having more Black and brown teachers. All right, so I kind of talked about this, who we are. We have a continuum. We actually have programs for high school, college, and career. We kind of, it's a three-pronged approach. So we actually support high school students by attending HBCUs through our HBCU college tour. When the world was open, we was taking anywhere between 50 to 100 students per trip to different HBCUs on the East Coast, the South, the Southwest, and the Midwest, like Kentucky States, Tennessee States, Central States. We have a college program where we have college ambassadors. They are our on-campus recruiters. And so those are individuals that are at these different institutions that are in the School of Ed programs that can help us understand the culture and the pulse of what's happening on the college campuses. And then we also support career changers and current educators to be retained in the profession, but also helping those career changers navigate how to become licensed in the profession as well. So that's enough about well, I guess one more slide. So some of the cool things that we do things like HBCU Summer Fest, this far picture right here, taking students on a college tour. We host award ceremonies, we host conferences, we do different panel discussions from Ed Table Talks. Some of our big highlights, we have one, T.I. did a competition with Tidal, so the streaming services that Jay-Z owned. Well, actually, he just sold a little bit of his shares to, who's the guy that he sold it to? I forgot. I don't know what he's over, but so Tidal. So we won some money from T.I. a few years ago. We have partnership. We partnered with Capital Prep Harlem, which, as you know, Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs started that school with Dr. Steve Perry. We just rocked out at our HBCU Teachers Fair last month. Had over 800 students that were HBCUs or current educators that are HBCU graduates trying to look for employment opportunities. We had over 70 school districts and charter school networks participated. Special guest hosts like Tamika Mallory, DJ Envy, Dr. Steve Perry was also there too as well. So it was really a phenomenal virtual event that we hosted. And then we host our Summer Fest. Like we had hip hop artists. It's a big tailgate. We hosted in Atlanta, Georgia. Last year was canceled due to the pandemic. Hopefully, we're not gonna probably do it this summer, but we probably come back in summer 2022. But it's basically a family reunion. You have your picnics, you have your concerts, your tailgating, you have your vendors. Brittany knows it from firsthand experience. It's a kind of a dope environment that we love to host. It's one of our major fundraisers that we do. But I'd like to share this because I feel like this kind of resonates with our young people. Like, oh man, celebrities have helped us out or supported us, or we partnered with them. And so those are some of like our big Educate Me highlights. I'm gonna try to play a video. I may have to take my AirPods off. And I want to ask, has anybody ever seen the show Blackboard Wars? It came on maybe a few years ago on the OWN network. Nobody? All right. So let me see if I can play this video. I'm gonna try to take my AirPods off for a second because maybe it will play better. And give me a thumbs down if the audio's bad. All right.
In the heart of the most historic community in New Orleans lies one of the worst schools in America, John McDonough High School.
Four suspects entered John McDonough armed with an AK-47 assault rifle. One of the suspects opened fire, killing one student and injuring 3 girls. The mayor of this city said you have a better chance of being murdered as a student at John McDonough High School than as a soldier in Afghanistan. I got shot right here when I started running. I got shot in my leg and right here. This is in a neighborhood where 70% of the kids weren't graduating from school. John McDonough was going to be scrapped and demolished.
The challenge of bringing the school back from the brink of failure is up to its new principal, Dr. Marvin Thompson.
We're going to have a lot of crises. There's going to be frustration. John McDonough has all of the challenges that any school could possibly have, but failure is not an option.
Dr. T's mission started with controversial education reformer Steve Barr.
This school was going to be closed.
Whose past experience turning around troubled schools earned his organization the challenge of transforming John McDonough High.
This is going to be the best high school in New Orleans when we're done.
I am very concerned about a chartering group coming from California.
But a public school run by a private organization has brought suspicion and anger from the surrounding community.
You have disrespected our community by saying we don't have people who can do what you do.
Public education is a tough thing to change because everybody went to school. They think they know what works.
After firing the school's most underachieving teachers, it's all on the line for Dr. T and his staff to make a difference.
I openly acknowledge not everybody's meant for this job. Not everybody's meant for this place.
Success or failure.
I'm being a responsible citizen. You have disrupted the school the last time. Get out.
Do you want to be in the streets? Or do you want to be the father that you're supposed to be? You have to step up to the plate.
Not break down. On each other.
Once you in, you might.
It's the first day of the school year, and all eyes are on John McDonough High.
All right. That may be like a little teaser right there. Can you guys hear me still?
All right. Let me see if my headphones are going to reconnect. I want to stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second and get my AirPods back on. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay. All right. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. All right. So now you probably want like, man, I want to watch that show. It's not on anymore. You probably have to go to YouTube to kind of figure it out and watch it. But I showed that video because that was my first internship. And I you know, for me, it's like, it was truly a leap of faith. So it's not on the slide, but one of my friends in college, from college, my first year in the program, Woodrow, which I was telling you guys about earlier. So before Educate Me even happened, only reason I believe Educate Me happened was because of this internship, my first job opportunity. And so my friend I was student teaching at the time, so I didn't have a job. And I was just like, you know, like I saw this show. It was Saturday night. This show came on. I'm like, I'm not about to watch this show on a Saturday night. I want to go out and have some fun, you know, and be with my friends. But she's like, no, Blake, you would love this show. You love education. Like, just check it out. I'm like, okay, cool. So I checked it out. I ended up like recording the show and started binge watching it because it was a few episodes that I missed. I'm like, man, this is a pretty dope show. Dr. T, which Dr. name is Dr. Thompson, was the principal at the time. That was his first year doing the principalship. And so I was like, let me just find this guy. Like I like what he's doing. He's turning around the school. I had aspirations to be a principal one day. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just see if I can just, you know, shadow him or figure something out. I didn't have any plan. I was like, I just want to be connected with this guy because, I mean, he's a principal. I want to be a principal one day. He's a Black man. What can I just soak up as much knowledge as I possibly can? So I ended up calling him. I didn't even call him. I actually emailed him. His assistant told me like, you know, Blake, we don't have an internship opportunity. You know, what are you looking for? I was like, I just want to just be in the building. Like, I just can't just be in a school building, just, you know, just be a fly on the wall. So I ended up driving from Indianapolis to New Orleans, 12-hour ride for an unpaid opportunity. I didn't have anything planned out. I didn't have housing. So I ended up like one of my friends, we knew some friends from New Orleans that went to Xavier. So if anybody heard of Xavier University in New Orleans? I had a friend that said, hey, Blake, you can sleep on my couch. But she had 3 roommates. So I was like, I don't care. I want like somewhere to lay my head. I brought my suitcase. I gassed my car up. I also had me an apartment in Indianapolis still. So I still had to pay my rent back there. But I had less than $300 to my name. So I still had to pay rent. I still had my car note. I still had all these bills I still had to pay. And I'm like, let me just take this leap of faith and see what happens. So I ended up driving to New Orleans, no housing outside of sleeping on my friend's couch, one suitcase. I never spoke to Dr. Thompson until I walked into the school building and I saw him face to face. Because his assistant said, hey, Blake, this is gonna be an unpaid opportunity. You got to come here by yourself. We're not gonna give you any gas money. We're not gonna give you any housing. You just gotta figure it out. But Dr. T said he's open to like you shadowing him and just, seeing how he does his day-to-day operations, and we'll kind of figure out what the internship would look like. I said, cool, I'll do it. And so when I got there, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, let's just see, like, because I had no teaching experience. I'm like, I want to talk to this principal about just having an internship. So he said, hey, Blake, you draft up what you want to get out this opportunity, right? You tell me, like, what do you really want? What value can I give you in this opportunity? So I was like, I went back home that night after we got a chance to have dinner, had opportunity to like just have some conversations about my past, what I want to do with my career. So that next day I wrote a plan, like a 8-page document to him and say, hey, like, let's look at your summer programming. Let's see like where, John McDonough wants to be. I seen the show, so I kind of knew like they had huge problems in the community. He had summer school going, but the students wasn't involved in any activities. They had a football team, but no football field. The basketball court they had in the in-school gym was horrible. So they really didn't have like any after-school program. So I was like, let's kind of figure out what partners can we work with in the community that can be service providers to this high school. And so my goal for that summer was reaching out to these other organizations in the community, saying, hey, we have these high school students that are looking for like summer opportunities. Can you come and do like some enrichment programs for them? Can we create some mentorship pathways? And so I ended my internship opportunity with him. I had vetted these partnerships, right, with these different affiliate organizations that were rendering a service to his high school. And it was cool. I mean, for 30 days when I was in New Orleans, it was life-changing. For me, was like I got a chance to soak up as much knowledge as possible. I mean, he didn't want to do the TV show. The show came to him. It was just, fell into his lap. As the charter school organization, they wanted to find the best school leader. And so he kind of talked about how it was in the production meetings with Oprah's team and like, how the contract negotiation was. But that leap of faith actually turned into a crazy story. So this is how I think the universe aligns and the stars align. So after I did the internship with Dr. T, he said, hey, Blake, I got this presentation in Indianapolis. And I'm like, well, I live in Indianapolis. Like, he said, well, I'm supposed to be doing this thing called like the Indianapolis Black Expo. I'm like, that's the biggest summer celebration in Indianapolis. Like, that's the biggest thing. So he's like, I'm keynoting. It's like, I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? He said, I want you to make the PowerPoint presentation for my keynote. And so literally like for like the last like 7 days of my internship, we were like, I was hearing his speech, giving him feedback, like, no, that's not it, because I'm from the community now. So he's going back to the community that I'm working in. He said, like, what do they need to hear? Like, what are some of the pain points of the community? I'm like, okay, this is what you need to talk about. We need to change this slide up. Like, you need to make sure you talk about some of the school districts in the community. And so I ended up doing this PowerPoint presentation. He said, hey, Blake, outside of this, I'm going to fly you back to Indianapolis. I'm going to fly you to Carolina because that's where his sister was living. And he said, I want you to do like a strategic plan and revamp my website for my company. Because he saw like I was doing some websites and PowerPoint. He said, hey, Blake, you got a skill set here. I'm like, okay, yeah. So he flew me to Charleston, South Carolina to meet with his assistant. Now he put me in a hotel, paid for my plane ticket. And we ended up like spending 2 days with his assistant, like revamping his whole entire website. That was not an internship opportunity. I revamped his whole entire website. We went over a strategic plan. How can he work with more schools and different communities and all those things? And in mind you, I had 0 years of teaching experience. So he was just trusting this young guy to kind of give him feedback on how to flesh out his website and make it more user-friendly. And he flew me back to New Orleans. When I got back to New Orleans, he said, "Hey, Blake, how you paying your rent?" And he knew I wasn't getting paid. He said, I'm just figuring out, and I really wasn't figuring it out. I probably asked my mom for some money and like some friends for some money, like, hey. And so he ended up like cutting a check to pay for my rent for the month I was in New Orleans and the month prior to it. And my lease was coming up, and he paid for my security deposit for my new apartment. So it wasn't a paid opportunity. It was more so like, hey, Blake, you came on a leap of faith. You've shown that you come to work every day on time. You're doing great things for me. Like, hey, here you go. And never, I didn't even never ask. He just offered it to me. And I actually turned him down and said, no, I didn't come for this. Like, I just came for the information. I came for the knowledge. He said, no, like, you've been doing everything I asked for you and then some. And so I was like, so of course, that apartment that I lived in, that he paid the deposit, I stayed in there for like 4 years. Cause I was like, this is an awesome opportunity. But when I went to Indianapolis, I drove up. I had an interview with a school district when I moved back to Indianapolis, like right before his keynote speech the next day. And the driver when Dr. T came, they had a chauffeur and everything for him because he was the keynote for this conference and everything. The driver was like, oh, hey, Blake, Dr. T told me you were going to help us navigate, his travel arrangements and all those things. I said, yeah. And the driver was like, his wife was was employed at the school that I was interviewing with. And so we're actually like now lifelong friends, the husband and the wife. Her name is Miss Jackson. So Mr. Jackson, or Mr. Dinkins, that is, was a driver for that day. And I said, hey, I'm actually interviewing at Stony Brook Middle School. He said, yo, my wife works there. I'm gonna make sure she puts a good word in for you too. So like the driver of Dr. T was also the husband of a wife that worked for the school that I ended up getting my first job opportunity with. And so crazy, like how all the stars just aligned in that one month span. End up being in Stony Brook for 3 years. That's where the story comes. Like I was the only Black male teacher in that school building. That's where education was birthed. But it all kind of started from me taking that leap of faith, driving to New Orleans, unpaid opportunity, meeting Dr. Thompson, helping him out, showing what I can do with my skill set. And that paved the way for my career trajectory, right? And so even to this day, I still kind of text him, call him, check in on him. He checks in on me. He's still in New Orleans. Still, he's not the person with John McDonough anymore, but he had his own consulting company where he was a superintendent in Virginia. So that's his background too. So he was a superintendent of the largest school district in Virginia. One of the largest school districts in Virginia. I think it's Roanoke. I don't know the school district in Virginia, but was a superintendent, principal, played college football. So yeah, the ring that he shows in his video, he won a state championship on his college football team. So really cool, down to earth guy. I mean, and when I first met him, I'm thinking like, okay, he's on a TV show. He's gonna be kind of conceited a little bit, but like the coolest, laid back, unfiltered gentleman that you probably would ever meet. And I mean, he'll give you a shirt off his back, So like, I mean, outside of me just being there on the day, like I would go to his house, we would watch TV shows. He would drive me around New Orleans, like, hey, this is a nice spot. Take me out to dinner. So again, even though it was unpaid, like he made sure every day I had food to eat. And again, like I talked to you about a minute ago, like he made sure that I had my housing and all those things. But and that's for me, I'm showing this slide because I ended up being a teacher 3 years. End up having that opportunity being a teacher. Like my principal sent me to Harvard for a summer. That's what this picture was. So I went to the Urban Principals program at Harvard University. I presented to the YMCA in Chicago for an audit we did on one of their programs. And so for me, that one internship opportunity led to that first job opportunity that allowed me to create this massive network with people that, even to this day, my old principal, even though she know I left the school to be fully immersed into my nonprofit, like she still writes me recommendations to this day. We still kind of communicate here and there. And that's one of my biggest things too, is like, you never want to make sure you leave a situation on a bad note because you never know if you need that individual down the line. And I feel like for me, if I left a job, if I said, hey, this opportunity is not the best opportunity for me anymore, I always try to leave on good terms because you just never know who somebody else knows. And honestly, I never knew that me and Dr. T, the chauffeur of the person that we came back to Indianapolis, would have been the husband of somebody that was employed in my building. And actually, Mrs. Jackson, when she got pregnant, she said, hey, Blake, I'm about to do a maternity leave. Can you be the team leader for 7th grade? Like, cause we just build this whole close bond. So she actually ended up referring me to be the 7th grade team leader So that was a leadership opportunity I had in my second year of teaching that I had for 2 consecutive years because of our relationship. And so that's why I always say, you just never know the power of networks. You never know the power of building your social capital, which is that goes to my next thing, right? So what you're looking for in your internship and your first job is, what value can I get out of this opportunity, right? When I went to New Orleans, I didn't know at that moment when I was driving that 12 hours, like what value. I just knew that something in my gut was telling me that this opportunity will lead to something that I can't see down the line, which it clearly did. So I just want to ask yourself, what value can I get out of this opportunity, right? So you got to be kind of selfish, right? You want to say, okay, if I'm taking this opportunity, take the time of my day, if I'm doing it unpaid, what value am I getting? Like the tangible advice that Dr. T was pouring into me, the things I got to see on a day-to-day basis, how to navigate certain meetings, conflicts, like you can't put a price tag on that. So for me, that value was bigger than an actual check that I was getting. So to me, that was a huge value. Does this job or opportunity align with my career aspirations? For me, yes, it did. I wanted to be one day a principal or a school leader. Of course, I'm not right now, but that offered me an opportunity to be like a CEO of my own nonprofit organization. I knew I was intentional when I went to that program because intentional when I saw the internship. I wanted to make sure I had value. It aligns with my aspirations because I knew that either I'm being a school leader or I'm going to learn more about the educational landscape. And so for me I took the opportunity because it aligned with my 3 to 5 year plan. So you want to make sure you have, I'm pretty sure you guys heard this all the time, like have a 3 to 5 year plan in any career that you have, right? So if you want to move up in the leadership chain, if you want to think about getting a new skill set and going to another industry, you have to make sure that first job or the internship aligns with your personal strategic plan, right? And then this third one is big, right? And we talk about like human capital and different type of capital, like financial capital, but can you build your social capital up, right? And we talk about social capital is like, my network is my social capital. And people always say your network is greater than your net worth, right? Because you just never know who our people are tied to. And so for me is how you build up your social capital in that first internship opportunity, in that first job opportunity. Yeah, you may not get the salary that you want. It may not be a paid opportunity. My first year teaching, I got paid $38,000. To me at that time, it seemed like a lot of money, but now looking back, I'm like, that was probably like not good at all, right? I had a car note, I had rent. I'm like, and I'm looking at my colleagues like, how do people survive off of $38,000, right? But I was building up my social capital. I was making sure I was networking in the community that I was working in. I was going to sporting events. I was going to different networking opportunities, going to the happy hours. Like I was building up my social capital while I was working. And now years later, like I'm still connected with a lot of people when I was teaching. And then number 4 is something that I learned when I took my first job working at Sonics at 16 years old, is do you have a CEO mindset? And people think like sometimes like, oh man, like you want to be a boss, right? People always say, I want to be a CEO, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be my own boss. That's cool. And I'm telling you, it's fun at times, but you know, Brittany knows this too. Like it's hard work, you know, it's hard work being a CEO. But what I mean by having a CEO mindset, it didn't matter if I was at Sonic's flipping burgers in the kitchen, working at Cheesecake Factory, working at Red Bull, being a teacher. It didn't matter any company that I ever worked for. I always had a CEO mindset. And I learned this, and I've learned this from my last boss that I had when I worked for an ed tech company, is that he wanted everybody in his company have a CEO mindset because they are a direct reflection of the company. But he also wanted to make sure people knew about how can they be cross-trained in different departments of the company. And so that's how you make yourself more appealing to employers, to job opportunities. Because for me, when I have a CEO mindset, when I was a teacher, I'm like, okay, how does the school principal, you know, navigate their days? Like, who are the vendors of the school? Like, who are the service providers? Like, you know, how do people get contracts? Because I mean, yeah, I'm just focused on my 160 kiddos in my classroom, but this system that I'm working in is a well-oiled machine. I need to know how this machine really works. How does the school board work? And I know I'm talking about education in a second. I'm gonna have a Q&A for you guys to tell me about your career aspirations. But when you step into your employment opportunity, that first job, you need to have a CEO mindset to understand like, yeah, I'm doing my roles and responsibilities. I'm executing my job to a high level, but I want to know like how this other department is working. You know, what is the executive leaderships in this company? How do they how their day-to-day looks like. You know, how do we generate revenue? You know, who do we pay out? Like, what is our, you know, profit and loss statements? Like, what does those look like? Sometimes people, you can go almost research some of these things, because if they're a nonprofit company, they got tax returns, right, that you can pull. They're for-profit companies. Sometimes you can see their financial statements. So for me, I'm always having a mindset, I'm thinking big picture, because that makes myself more marketable, and I can truly understand how this system works rather than being someone that's constantly going through the cycle. And so for me, those are my big four things when you're looking for a job, right? What value do you get? How does it align with your career aspirations? Are you building your social capital up? And do you have a CEO mindset? And if you have those four things, if you go into your first internship, you're going to have a totally different perspective, right? When you're looking at your paycheck, you're like, okay, I'm not getting what I deserve. It's going to be a totally different mindset. It's like, okay, I'm just building my social capital up. Any job that I have gotten before I became an entrepreneur, I looked at it as like a paid training opportunity, right? I didn't look at it as a paycheck. My mindset switched from like, oh, I'm making 40,000, I'm making 50,000, or I'm making $20 an hour. I looked at it like someone's paying me to learn more about my job, and I'm just delivering and executing on my job description, right? It's almost like going to grad school. And I got 2 masters, and I just got offered to go get a EDS, which is like an educational specialist degree, for free. And I'm like, I'm probably not going to do it, right? Because I feel like you learn more on the job than probably any grad school probably can teach you in certain capacities, right? And so for me, internship is huge. And that's why people say, like, you had to have an internship, you had to have the work experience, because the things you learn in the classroom, only way that you apply them is actually you get a chance to do the work, right? You have to be out there in the field, in the private sector, public sector, nonprofit sector, whatever industry you're in, to actually get that experience. And so those are my 4 top ones. So I'm going to open it up now, and I'm looking at my clap. I think we got some good time left. So I'm going to open it up to any questions. I'm an open book, to answer any of your guys, questions after you've heard my presentation. And I don't know, Brittany, you want to, go ahead. You got one already.
I think the things you're teaching us are huge, because I don't remember anyone ever talking about having a strategic plan and networking being so important, and a CEO mindset. I mean, I think the things that we used to learn were you show up on time, you really, you try to do a good job, and what you're saying is so much bigger. There's so much more to do. I'm taking notes, because I'm like, wow, this is really the good stuff.
Yeah.
My question is, when you were thinking of, going off or driving down there for the first internship, what were you saying to yourself? Because this is like a big deal, what you were about to jump into. So what were you telling yourself?
I think I tell myself the same thing I told myself then, is if I'm not willing to bet on myself, how can I ask somebody else to bet on myself, or bet on me, right? And so for me, it's like, I'm willing to take the risk on myself before I ask for, I wouldn't even say a handout, right? But just ask for like support. And so for me, when I was driving down there, I don't know what this internship is going to, like I said, I don't know what's going to come from this opportunity. But you always hear these stories from these major successful people like, hey, I took this leap of faith, right? Or I took this opportunity. I mean, you hear all these glamorous stories, and I'm like, what is my story? Like, what risk have I taken in my life? I think I kind of played it safe in a lot of parts of my life. For me, it was like, the worst I have to lose is gas money at this moment, right? Like, if I go down there, it's a horrible opportunity. I'm not bounded to do something and stay here. I can drive back in my car another 12 hours and it's unpaid, right? I don't have any, stake in the game right now. So for me it was, what do I have to lose? If I'm not willing to bet on myself, how can I expect somebody else to? And then what would I feel like if I didn't drive down there, right? And I think a lot of times we think about all the what ifs, or it's not going to work out, or I may not get what I want. I'm investing so much of my own personal money and time into this, and how do I see the return on investment, the ROI on it? For me, it was I didn't want to feel the feeling of the regret, like, oh, I didn't take this opportunity, right? So for me, I sent the email. That was the first, like, overcoming the hurdle. Like, just send the email, see what happens. the worst thing they can do is say no. And my mom told me this before, like, you know, you will be in the same position before you ask the question, basically, right? If someone tells you no, you're in the same position before you asked, right? So nothing has changed. It wasn't like, you know, a life-changing situation. So if they said yes, you know, we're off to the racing, and we're gonna find. I was gonna find a way to make it happen. So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. Any more questions? So I'm gonna break the ice. So I can't see names, but does anybody want to share what kind of career pathway they're trying to go? You know, what they're trying to study, what they're majoring in. Anybody want to share out?
I can share.
Awesome.
So I'm currently a freshman in college right now, but my senior year of high school, or actually all 4 years of high school, I was a part of the business academy because I really thought like, oh, going into college, I wanted to like do accounting and I wanted to like pursue that as a career.
Mm-hmm.
And then my junior and senior year, I was working as an intern at State Farm, and it was, well, I kind of already knew that like I wasn't really passionate about accounting, but like everyone was saying like, oh, when you're coming out of college, it's really easy to get a job as an accountant or anything in finance really. So that was like kind of like my main reason for wanting to even like pursue anything finance related. But my junior and senior year, I was working as an intern at State Farm, and although like I did like the people I was working with, it kind of like made me realize like I don't like sitting behind a desk, and I'm not really as interested as I thought I was in finance. So it kind of like further reiterated like how much I really wanted to like do or like be in the health field. So right now as a college freshman, I'm a health science major, and I'm really happy like that I got that experience to kind of like, you know, make sure I wasn't like wasting my time or like taking classes that I knew like later on down the road I would regret.
Yeah. So Sarah, what is your why? If someone says, hey Sarah, like why are you going through this health route? You know, what is something that keeps you up at night? What is something that, I mean, I talk about this all the time, like what is something someone gives you opportunity, you say you're willing to do it for free?
Well, like one, I'm really like passionate about like healthcare advocacy, and like also like my family personally has been affected by the healthcare system, and I lost my dad in 2017, and like I remember like feeling how I was feeling during that time, just kind of helpless, like I couldn't really help him or like make that pain go away, and I knew that whatever it is that I did in the future, I wouldn't want anyone to have to go through what I was going through. And that if I had the power to like, you know, make a change or bring diversity into the health field, that's what I wanted to do.
Nice, nice. That's going to be your thing that's going to keep you driving every single day. Like you're a freshman in college, there's going to be a lot of hurdles you're going to have to overcome, you know, so if you keep that why strong to you, I mean, you're going to be untouchable. Another thing I want to say too, you know, the accounting piece, I understand like that may not be your passion, your purpose in life, but clearly it's a skill set you have. And we always talk about how to amplify our skill sets in regards, you know, to make more money or to generate more revenue, whatever the case may be. I literally just yesterday went on Fiverr. I don't know if anybody heard of Fiverr, right? It's like a freelance website. You can pay somebody to make a flyer or a video. I literally pay somebody $25 to do like a financial budget projection for me. You know, so for me is like as a college student, I mean, I would not, you know, I would tell you right now, like it's a great opportunity to be a freelancer. You have a skill set of accounting to, you know, you did an internship at State Farm. I don't know how deep you got into the accounting piece, but if you know how to do budgets, spreadsheets, anything like that, I definitely will try to see what can you do to kind of generate some more income on the side. You know, something you got to really think twice about. Because you just never know what that accounting relationship may yield to for your health field, right? I've worked different jobs all the time just to kind of see, you know, who I know, right? And you just never know. Like again, we talk about the power of networks, right? So I definitely believe you think about trying to freelance a little bit, doing some accounting services for some people. Think about doing something like that on the college campuses for sure. You just never know. I was a serial entrepreneur on college campus. I was involved in the Student Government Association, but I also planned, this is another story for another day, but I planned a crazy spring break trip. We took over 600 students from Howard, Hampton, Norfolk, TSU to Panama City. This was in 2011. 600 people. We generated $120,000. I'm a 21-year-old college student and just had a business idea. Let's do a spring break trip and take some college kids that, you know, wanted to enjoy spring break. And so for me, that again, the entrepreneurship mindset, that CEO mindset, how can we make a little bit more money doing a skill set that we naturally already do? And so I took that skill set of planning a spring break trip when I was in college, took that skill set, and now we do these massive college tours for high school students for HBCUs. And so I always say, like, you just never know where you can learn something right now on the college campus, what a skill set you already have that may come out in a different way when you graduate and walk across that stage in about 3 or 4 years. So,
Thank you.
No problem, no problem. Any more questions? So anybody else want to say career aspirations? Sarah kicked us off really good.
So hi, my name is Kevin. Currently, my career aspirations are going towards the PhD route and doing research. Right now, it's up in the air on what exactly I want to do research in. There's just a lot of things I want to learn about the brain. So I might consider like food science, things along those lines. So it's up in the air, but you know, I still have time to decide and just, you know, dip my toes into the water and try everything out.
So Kevin, I'm gonna give you a gem. Look up. It's called Spencer. Just look up Spencer Grant. I think look at Spencer Research Grant. So I'm gonna give you a gem, and this is where I think it's gonna help you out for the PhD route. So there's some grants out there that they look for PIs, right? A principal investigator, and usually they need like a PhD student to sit on that grant. So you have to be either a PhD student or have your doctoral degree to be a PI. So like a nonprofit organization like myself, or, you know, the organization, you know, you are like CDI, like they may want to go apply for a grant and maybe want to apply for a research grant. This can be a 3-year grant, a 5-year grant, but they need a doctoral student or a PhD candidate to sit on that grant as the principal investigator, which is their researcher. And so the Spencer grant I told you about, that's all they do. Majority of the grants are research-based grants. So where you right now, you already graduated, you're a current college student?
I'm currently a junior at Lehigh.
So yeah, so I mean, for me is, again, I always look for different things that I probably know I'm not even qualified for, because you just never know, right? So people may think like, you go to the bank and say, can I borrow $1 million? And they probably tell you no. But the reason they tell you no, they'll give you the reasons why that you can't get $1 million. They may say, credit score is too low, you don't generate enough money, you know, you got your DTI is too low, but at least you know what you need to know to go out there and borrow $1 million. And so you're saying you're a junior right now. You may not be a doctoral student, but you can start looking at grants right now to see, okay, what are the things they're looking for in the grant application process for a research grant. My actual sister actually does research for the health industry for food deserts. And she had, you know, what is it, the FDA and like, you know, the NSF grants that come out. They're different research-based grants, right? And a lot of people actually, that's all they do is research, right? And so for you, I definitely just start thinking about what kind of grants are out there that I can just see like that needs a researcher, and what are things, who can I talk to right now that does research on different grants? And can I talk with them and kind of build my social capital up, right? Can I build my social capital up, learning from them about these research opportunities? But Spencer Grant is a good, we applied for one maybe not too long ago. We didn't get it, but I found out they have like anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000 grant opportunities. And for me is, we always apply for grants that we probably are not qualified for, because we want to get the evaluations, and people like, you wasted your time. But again, I need to know where our organization stands up in compared to like these bigger organizations. And so for you is sometimes just look about, can they submit you a previous application that been awarded, right? Or what is the research is telling, right? COVID is a lot of research grants out there right now. Also, I think there's a lot of research grants for, you're in high school, you said?
No, I'm a junior in college right now.
Okay, yeah. So there's a lot of grants even for how can we have young people included in some of these grants, right? And I know sometimes it can be anywhere from 18 and up that they want to have some voices at the table for young people or college people, because a lot of times we're building programs for the youth, but not with the youth. And so there may be opportunity for you to look on those different grant opportunities. Spencer Grant, I'll definitely start with them first though. Yeah. We're rocking and rolling. Anybody else? No. Going once. No. Well, that was all I got. Lastly, I want to share my contact information. That's always a good one. So this is my email address. Anybody wants to reach out to me anytime. I try to respond within the 24-hour window. And so it's just bnathan@educatemefoundation.org. Just in your subject title, just make sure you just say, the CDI Summit, and I'll make sure that I know, put a name with a face in the email. But Lauren.
I was just sitting here thinking, you have so much confidence and you have so much courage, to do everything that you've done. And I was wondering, did you always feel that way growing up? You're very charismatic and
yeah.
and is that something that you had to work on growing up, or is this, you had this, this is who you are in elementary, middle, and high school?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Probably asking my mom that question, she'd probably say, yeah, Blake has always been like this. I am kind of, sometimes kind of like, I'm really like attentive, and like in conversation, I try to be like more of a listener than a talker. Because I can pick up on things. I try to be a very observant of my surroundings, because eventually when you're in like meetings, like people will tell you what you need to know. So sometimes you don't have to, we call it like throwing up on people in business meetings, right? Like you just coming out and just rapid fire saying everything rather than just being listening. I always think I've always been charismatic. I think I was involved, like Sarah said, like in high school, I was involved in like Future Educators of America. I was Future Business Leaders of America. I did like these mock interviews in high school. I played sports. I was in a program called Kappa League, so I did those things in high school. And for me, like I just took advantage of my opportunities when I was in high school. And I think that played in college. And so when I was in college, I was involved in like a couple campus-based organizations. I got involved in student government associations. So I went out to like I was actually SGA vice president my senior year. And so when you're talking to your college peers and telling them to vote for you, like that's, that kind of got your shell a little bit on that. I played as a fraternity. And so they definitely boost you up and tell you about your confidence. And so that kind of helped out. And I feel like, as I get to talk to more and more people, you just kind of build that confidence, right? I try to stay in my lane of what I know. So education is my passion. I eat, breathe, and sleep education, anything about education. So when, Brittany reached out to me about this opportunity, I don't care if it was 2 people, I'm going to give 100% of my what I know and what I have. And so I just love education. And so for me I get excited when talking about these things that I've been through in education, the things I learned, hopefully that the things I, have my pitfalls, that no one else will make the same mistakes that I made. And so I do get excited, and I always smile. Even when I was a teacher, my students were like, Mr. Nelly, you mad at us? I'm like, yes, I'm mad. And I'll be smiling, and they were like, they couldn't take me seriously at times. But I think that's how I am though. And I think it got built along the way from high school, college, and then of course now as a professional. So, yeah.
Okay, this is my last question.
No, go ahead. You're good.
It's something that a lot of students have brought up over the years is needing to know what you're going to do, like needing to know your major before you go to college, because there's a concern about wasting money and time. And I know this was not what you were asked to speak on, but I would just love to hear your opinion, because that comes up a lot.
Yeah. And I may get, slaughtered in the educational world because I have 2 master's degrees. And if I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't have got those masters. It put me in more student debt. My major was aviation. I graduated aviation degree. I'm not doing anything in aviation. I love technology, so that helped me become a technology education teacher and instructor. I think there's a false like pressure on young people right now. It's like you need to know what your major is. Like even, I mean, in the K-12 sector, we're telling, you know, middle school students they need to figure out a career pathway for high schools, and high school students like you need to go through a CTE pathway to graduate. And like a 14, 15, 16-year-old doesn't know what they want to do just yet. Like there's the adults in their 30s and 40s and 50s are still trying to figure out like, is this really what I want to do? So it's kind of an unwanted pressure for high schools, I mean college students, to figure out like, I need to major in, you know, pre-med, I need to major in biology, I need to major in business. Or, you know, for me, it's like, don't worry about the major. And usually, I mean, your freshman, sophomore year are more your your general study courses anyway. And then your junior, senior year, you kind of get into your major courses. So I would kind of tell any student that are their freshman, sophomore year in college, don't worry about the major just yet, right? And for me is, I learned more in the community, like the organizations that I was a part of, more so than I learned in my classes, right? So like, I don't remember anything about my English 201 or, you know, my physics class, or, you know, physics 1 and 2, or my what was it called? Capstone, you know, project that I had to do for my senior to graduate. I don't remember any of those things, but I do remember Robert Rules of Order to have meetings. I do know how to look at budgets and how to, you know, how to conduct myself in business meetings, and what it means to be on time and punctual, and how to advocate for yourself and have confidence, like those things that are not always taught in the classroom, right? I did take a leadership course on college campus, my university, and that was very beneficial. We read the New York Times every morning when we went to class. We had to be in a suit, tie every single day. We had to be on time. We were 30 seconds late. The professor closed the door, would not let us in. And we had to, he told you had to sit outside the door to still listen to the instructions, right? And so for me, that was like really good advice that I had on college campus. But I definitely want to encourage people like to be stuck on like the major in the moment, because that can change, right? I think Sarah is a great example. Like she had an opportunity to go into the accounting internship with State Farm and realized that that wasn't her calling, and ended up becoming like, now she's majoring in, you know, like, you know, probably biology or the health sciences, right? But you got to ask yourself, what is your why, right? I think that's what it really boils down to. Like, what is your purpose? Like, what do you feel like you can just do naturally? If it's playing, you know, for me, is it playing video games? Is it looking on Instagram? You love social media? Maybe you should be a publicist. Maybe you should work on being a marketing director of somebody's social media pages. If you love gaming, maybe you should learn how to create your own video games, right? If you love, you know, the health, you know, the health field, and like Sarah with her, you know, about her father, like if that's her why, then I was like, hey, like, let's figure something, like be a health advocate, right? You want to be in, you know, the policy work and lobby for, you know, different disparities that happen in the Black and brown community. Like, you know, what are things you want to do? And I think that's the biggest thing that really matters outside of a major, right? Because the major now is like a diploma. I mean, it's just a piece of paper to say you're a college graduate, but a lot of employers are looking for like, what experiences do you have? Like, can you tell me outside of your resume, your credentials, like, can you tell me some stories? Tell me about, you know, one of the the biggest situation that you overcome. Like, what would an employer say, a former employer say about you? How do you handle conflict? And that's outside of a general degree in a piece of paper. And so that's why I think you build your social capital up while you're in college, because those are what things employers are going to be looking for in the future, not just you have a college degree. And I mean, we're seeing it now what Apple's doing, right? I think either Apple or Google saying they're not even going to hire. One of the requirements are not even going to be a diploma, a bachelor's degree now, because they understand like you can create a skill set and not have the credentials. Now, I'm not saying you want to be a doctor, you need to go to med school, you need to go get your residency, those things. But there's certain careers now that you can get those, you know, those accelerated credentials to do. You don't need a degree all the time, but I think that was kind of be my biggest advice, right? And I think it boils down to your purpose and your why, and you ask yourself those questions early to help you make those decisions. I was sitting in a meteorology class when I realized that aviation was not my degree that I need to do. I was my junior year in college. I was sitting in, it was 4 of us in the class. Literally that day, I went to my advisor and said, I cannot do this major anymore. I don't have the love for it. It was fascinating to tell people I majored in aeronautical and industrial technology, like coming out your mouth, like, it was like, oh my God, you're really smart, Blake. I'm like, no, I just want to fly planes, right? But I mean, for me, it's like, am I just doing it because it sounds good? Am I doing it because it sounds cool? Like, am I really staying up late night to study? And I'm enjoying it. And then for me, it was a no. I love technology, yes, but I didn't have a deep passion for aircraft, right? And so for me I learned in my junior year. I ended up sticking with it, and I found a different pathway that ended up being my why. And I had an opportunity to infuse my love for technology and my passion for education and become an educator. And now my passions came to teacher diversity, right? So it's okay to change your pathways and trajectories when you have that aha moment. Yep.
I love it. The aha moment. You have so many great gems that you dropped today, Blake, and it's so great to know you, to work with you, and for you to share this knowledge with all of us today. I got something out of it, and I've been knowing you for about 4 years now. So this is really wonderful. Does anyone else have any other questions to ask or anything? No, we're all good. So the time now is 12:46. We're to join the main session back again at 12:55. I think this is a wonderful time to get a little break. We're right in the middle of the 12 and 1 o'clock, where you can get grab a bite to eat and be back here by 12:55. And I just want to say thank you, Blake. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your knowledge. I greatly appreciate your story. And this was really great. This was really great. So I hope everyone got something out of it. If you would like to keep in contact with Mr. Nathan, take down his contact information and reach out to him. I definitely believe in networking is so powerful. You never know, even if it's not in the field that you want to get into, you never know where a conversation can lead you, in a door and an opportunity that you can walk into. It's more so about relationships. Relationships are single-handedly more important than a lot of things in life. As you can see how people climb, it's based off of who they have interacted with. And in speaking in interaction, to answer your question, Lauren, as well, on about the majors, one of the advice that I have given to myself and to other people is to, if there's a particular field that I was interested in going to, I sought out mentorship in that particular field. And even if I did not know the person, I would reach out. I would go find their LinkedIn profile and look up to see their resume, to see what they did, to see if I could see myself in that shoe. I will go on YouTube. I mean, technology is so great. I will go on YouTube and I would find a documentary on a particular field. And I would try to find someone that looked like me, that was from my area and that had a particular background that I had, so I can feel as though I related more. And so before I did go into a course, I had my undergraduate in political science. And because my father, of course, is in politics, so I wanted to be like my dad. And all the while, the mentors that I gravitated to were all in education. And that's where I have ended up today. And I've, following different people and watching documentaries and researching and trying to figure out, can I see myself in their shoes? And if I could not see myself in their shoes, then I quickly was like, that's not the major for me. I went into school undecided. Then I started with business because I was like, oh, maybe I'll just do business. There's a lot of math. I found out that I didn't like math. So I was like, well, let me do what my dad did. He's pretty successful. I found out that it was great skill set, because a lot of skills that we do major in are transferable in different ways. So like how Blake was in aviation and now he's in education, I'm pretty sure that, there are some skill sets that you will learn that are very transferable. So it's never time wasted. It's a lesson learned, and just application into those lessons that you learn, implement those things in. So that's all I have for you all. I took some time out of you. So you have 5 minutes, a 5-minute break. Thank you once again, Blake, and I
No
greatly
problem.
appreciate this session. And I guess it will return us back in to the main session in 5 minutes. So go and grab yourself something to drink, take a bathroom break, stretch, do a yoga skill again, stretch to the side, do what you need to do, and then come right on back at 12:55.
Yeah, Brittany, can you just, what is, I'm going to probably have to step off here, but what is the next part of this?
The next part of it is, let me pull this up. So it's going to be a reconvene and announce career coaching sessions and upcoming reminders. Then it will be a final, at 1 o'clock, it'll be a final remarks with Catalina Pina. She's the founder and lead career coach at Catalyst Creation. And then we will end off for the day. We should be ending by 1:30.
Okay. I've got my daughter's texting me here, so I'm gonna have to step off.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I'll do that. And but I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. Yes.
Yes. Thank you for coming. Definitely appreciate you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
This was awesome. I don't know if Blake's still here, and I don't know if we're being recorded, but absolutely wonderful information.